Oh, come on, come on, come on. That's not, no. Why is this? Looks like we're getting there. Come on. There is something. Hi, guys. Sorry about that delay. A little bit of technical difficulties I'm fighting in the background. Hello, I'm Nick Tucker, and this is the Historical Fencing Guild. I am really, really psyched this week. The Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by The Simple Sword. My book on fencing, I know I'm really out of it. I came skating in the door. We were a little late coming home. And it's brought to you by my amazing patrons. I have a whole bunch of news. I really want to get rolling with it. So my morning shtick is a little funky. I'm part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. Tomorrow morning, tomorrow morning is Saturday. Wow, I am so scrambled, guys. This has been an amazing day of news. Oh, Pete. Okay. Let me go down the line. Sorry. The Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by my amazing Amazon book, The Simple Sword. I'm resetting. We can do this in case you want to learn to fence. It's also brought to you by my Patreon patrons, who are an amazing group of people who are giving me the money to hopefully replace this goofy tarp real soon and get this ball rolling a little bit better. We are joined by some great folks. Before we got anything going, we got Cindy Kep, who's one of the most fantastic people on earth. The unshakable, immovable, amazing Steve Clausen, an old friend of the channel, proud guildie, and the only other person to pay me for what I do, Mr. Pete Pidrak. Guys, it's great hearing from you, General Kenobi to Cindy Kep. And yeah, but I will be kind of plugging stuff. I know I seem shocked. I got hit with several bouts of news today, and it's just blown my mind. So the first big announcement, we'll do it in sequential order. Well, I'm just like professional tonight. Steve Clausen has become a patron, our first ever sword tier patron. Thank you so much, Steve. Your support will go to, well, what I'll be talking about a little bit later, just as a starter. For those getting on with that, for those of you who don't know, I got the Fighting Axe published through Amazon over the course of late last night, early in today. And it debuted at #1. We bannered #1 in fencing on Amazon. That is a huge thing for us to pull off. And I am just mind boggled. So thank you for the folks who looked into it, who are reading it, shared around. We'll be talking about axes and the glory of a really underappreciated weapon system a little bit later. But that's not, the news doesn't stop, folks. I know I'm only 4 minutes in, but we also, the Historical Fencing Guild has made the 2021 list of fencing channels that you should be watching. I think this is our 3rd year on that list, so I'm really, really pleased to hear it. That means more and more people are getting to hear about how to sword fight, how to build each other up, how to use the systems I discussed, the gear I discussed to get better. This, guys, this is huge. I woke up. Yesterday I woke up Velcroed to my pillow because my mask was in error, and then my hands were Velcroed to my mask because I went to sleep kind of hyper exhausted, and then today it's like, wow. And guys, I have even more good news. Purple Heart Armory is open, and they are doing business. Why? Why? Okay, Nick, that's good. Why does that matter to you? Our good friend Christian Dorse sent this. This is in stock, the I-33. Now, why does the I-33 basic trainer matter? Well, one wonderful thing about Purple Heart Armory is if you ask for something, they provide. The I-33 references a very old fencing manual. It doesn't really have images, just frames. It's well known and kind of beloved as a very early, very appreciated medieval manual. So the 133. I keep saying I because it's Roman numeral. It gets hinky. But X Nyxlexia. Guys, this is it. This might be it. This sword is within an inch of the blade length and the handle length that I've been trying to get for so many of my smaller stature fighters. It's got a 25-inch grip, and it's like 32 inches overall. That means it's, let me get the exact measurements. I'm sorry. It's 31 and a quarter, and it's a 25 and a half inch blade. This is gonna be a freaking dream mode. So while I was discussing with my patrons which sword I should purchase, because I was debating getting the saber. Their Blue Gauntlet has a synthetic saber that's a synthetic modern style fencing saber. And there's also the Honshu broadsword. These are all really great things, but they're both balanced. I'm looking at the price, and they're both $35-ish. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to put this out. What do you guys think? And largely, a lot of my patrons, because guys, my patrons get a lot of pull. $1 a month will do tremendous for dictating what happens on this channel. And that's at patreon.com/The Historical Fencing Guild. That's me. Now, yes, I'm wearing my Radical Librarian shirt because I'm both feeling librarian-y and pretty dang radical. Purple Heart is open. Now is a great time to throw them some money. They lost a lot of business and had to suffer all the indignities during all the problems that happened in Texas. So I would love for you guys, if you're at all interested in their products, and actually I didn't know they were open. I just got their notice like a minute before while I was trying to fix the internet that decided to crash, of course. But now's a great time for you guys to consider supporting them, because I believe in supporting American companies first. So I'm going to take it to my patrons to make sure that nobody has a problem, because, guys, let me explain. To those of you who don't know, and I'm just going to keep right on prattling, and by all means, Pete, especially since you haven't been on much, if you have questions, comments, something you want to talk about, interrupt me. This is a 2-hour-long tirade of glory. But this is my beloved Lord Sword. I love this sword. It is probably my second favorite sword next to my Bilbo. And for demonstration, I love this because it can be dang near anything. I can one-hand it, I can two-hand it, I can make this beast go. And it slightly reminds me of one of my favorite fantasy anime of all time, Record of the Lotus Wars. This has been a sword I've been trying to track down because in some circles, this is considered a long knife or a dagger even. and it has about a 24-inch blade and about a 6-inch hilt. Do you know what weapon that, to those of you who don't, that is also roughly the proportions of Arya's needle? So I may have bugged Christian to say, hey, can you make a weapon roughly these proportions? And I know other people did. So the 1.33 is it. So I'll probably, assuming the patrons don't mind, and I've got 2 of them on here. In John's hands, it is. In John Miner's hands, that is a parry dagger to scale. That is almost exactly what an 18-inch dagger handles in most people's hands. A huge formative part of my time. Yeah, see, it's a great boot knife. Yeah, see. But seriously, a huge formative part of my time was around people who were 6 foot and up as the normal. Well, Brian says, buy what makes you the happiest. That's my vote. Wow. Cassandra Peterson is, anyway, I'm joking. And it's not, guys, this is the beautiful thing. It's not that I'm not buying what's coming out. It's what am I buying first? So as long as there's no major argument from the big players, and I know Steve's not going to mind. He's going to find this hilarious. I'll probably pretty much after the show hop on and order at least probably one of these. I would. Okay, I got from enough of a representative. I will be ordering one of those, and when it comes on, I will be doing a review, and that might be it. I'm really, guys, I've been after the holy grail of something I can say that's low cost, that I can say, buy this sword as a trainer across the board. I can see fencers, and I'm not flicking you off. I was doing a lot of work today in my hand. We are joined by Trizo Basil. I'm sorry, Christian Basil of Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Will we see a live circumcision? No, I am not a rabbi, although I have been mistaken as one when I go out in my fedora. I can't afford the robot yet. Steve, that's why I have patrons. No, I'm kidding. That's a long-standing joke between me and Steve. I'm actually incredibly specific with what I use patron money for. It goes to buying gear, maintaining the guild, or an extreme emergency. Like being locked down for several months. Some of that had to buy food. It happened because we didn't get our tax check. So we're rolling now, and I checked with the patrons at the time. They didn't care. So we are doing great, guys. The simple sword is out. Oh God! You know, Christian. See, and I'm glad you're here. I'm so glad to have Christian Basil. He does one, guys. If you aren't following Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, you are missing out. If you love Doctor Who as much as I do, Lord knows I'm an old school Doctor Who dork. Great show, loved it. If you have that kind of history, follow that. And yeah, go get your calamari rings somewhere else. This is not the Donner Party, Christian. Wow. The comments are getting colorful tonight. I love it. Caffeine. No, I don't have my usual stuff, so I'm gonna. Christian, I got okay. Cindy Kep, I plug pretty much. Oh God, that sounds terrible. Love you, Cindy. But www.ckoepp.com. That's Cindy Kep. She's an amazing author. Brian K. Morris is probably one of the best human beings not to be canonized. He's going to say he's humble. He's going to be a dork about it. He's fabulous, and he runs the Risingtide network. He runs which I'm a proud member of. Don't have a print graphic yet, but I will have a print graphic next week to fully show all the shows. But yeah, follow him, and by all means, follow Christian Basil. These are great people. Steve Clausen's going to do amazing things I am not allowed to talk about, but they relate to this field and they relate to what I do. So, stepping back, we're going to breathe because I have not stopped in about 15 minutes. It is a great week. Like I said, with the Fighting Axe out and available through Amazon, guys, Amazon.com/author/Nicholas Tucker. That's me. Look up the Fighting Axe. I have it. See, I learned a lesson. You learn lessons when you do stuff. When I did the Simple Sword, I wanted color. I want just a little bit of color on some pages. That means they charged me to print it the same cost if every page was in full color, because that's how things go, which is why I have to keep the price up a little bit. I put the Fighting Axe has only a few illustrations, and they're all in black and white to keep the cost down. Not for me, because I only make about $1 something on most of my any given product. Once you get past, maybe a bit more on the Simple Sword, but through Amazon, I keep my costs pretty much as low as possible, because as much as I love money and I do need it, it's about getting the ideas out. It's about making things where anyone can learn to fight. And if I'm a little more impoverished for that, that's just the price of ideals. And I'm one of those people where if you're going to say something, you better have the guns to stick up to it. And that's what I'm about. But the Fighting Axe is really good. And it should be available through Kindle Unlimited for all you folks. Peruse it. Read about it. Write a report. Write a scathing report. If you don't like it, there are two things. One, I take criticisms. I know there's some proofreading issues with the Simple Sword. That's been cleared with me. I'm going to do something special later with that. And the Fighting Axe, but right now Simple Sword is doing good. It's helping people. That's what it means. The Fighting Axe is going to help people. And it addressed one of my greatest freaking personal peeves. That being people who don't know how to split wood in movies and themes. And when I wrote my little axe manual, I covered there are 3 basic aspects to an axe. Okay, any axe. We'll grab my favorite trainer, the Cold Steel Trench Hawk trainer in stylish orange. And yes, I would love for Lynn Thompson or whoever to start cranking these babies out in the orange instead of the black, because A, it's less likely to get me shot by anybody while I'm demoing with it, and B, it shows up so much better on camera. But this is basically an axe. That means it has 3 possible uses, and this particular model will do all 3 moderately well. Obviously, it is an axe. I can hack wood. I can use it to process things. For my preference, if I were carrying something like this, I'd probably rather have a hammerhead on the back end just for practicality. But this is a great thing. Grip like this, you can actually carve bowls and a few other really neat things that are actually easier to do with an axe head than not. You can also split wood, at least theoretically. Now, a proper splitting ball, which it would. There's wood. Now, I will tell you the other thing, and I cannot sing the virtues of this particular trainer enough. It is the world's best back scratcher. So yeah, I love it. I've actually worn the paint off back scratching. But now, you can fight with this guy, obviously. I mean, that's pretty much its intention with all 3 of your basic grips. Yay. And it's balanced well enough where you could throw it. I have not thrown this exact model. Actually, no way, I have. I threw a knockoff one of these, and I quite liked it, as I recall. That's where the spike gets nice, because I know some people whose tumble really likes to hit with the back of the axe. And I know some people who underhand Like, John Miner will throw axes completely crazy backwards. But you like this? Hey, Goop Troop, I'm glad you like this. This should be fun. It's Friday night. We're talking about weaponry, getting gear and knowledge into folks' hands without charging them an arm and a leg or being grumpy or superior about it. This is what, I'm on a one-man war, a campaign against gatekeeping douche waffles who want to keep it where other people can't learn the art because they either use their knowledge as a commodity to trade for political power in their groups, or they want to keep their secrets so they can secretly beat people in combat. And I'm going to tell you something. If I'm keeping my martial secrets to keep secretly beat somebody in combat, in a world of ballistic weapons, you're being dumb. Yeah, Brother Love is on the pulpit right now, and it is beautiful. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, and to those of you who know, that is okay. I'm going to be muting the volume on that. A relative of mine had a surgery. It went fine. That's actually what that was. Steve, any copy you get to me, I'll sign, stamp, whatever. No blood involved, though, because I like to keep my arcane stuff limited. Thank you very much. But yeah, guys, it doesn't run all you want. You'll only die tired. Good evening, John Miner. Glad to see you waddling up. I thought a shadow eclipsed the moon. But yes, John, the fighting axe made #1 as a debut in fencing. How awesome is that? A nice little kind of novella length. Just here, you open this, you get an intro to axe, you go, hey. Now you couple that with the skills you learn in this, because it is volume 2 in a series, and stuff starts making sense fast. Because I'm not going to sit and use it as an excuse to repeat material so I don't have to create more. That's lazy. But I do believe the axe is a wonderful, undervalued, underappreciated. Yes, this is made in China. This absolutely is. I have no qualms about it, but it's very inexpensive. Let me see. I'll show where it says made in China if I can find it. I know it's on here somewhere. But now that's why, if you look at Purple Heart Armory out of Texas, they make gear and weapons pretty much. Whoop. Will you come out? Lydia, let go. Sorry, my undead office assistant is being handsy again. Lydia! Anyway. Sorry, gotta move the live steal. This is a basic trainer by Purple Heart Armory. This is, for people who don't know, the Italian tactical side sword. I think he dropped the tactical off later. But this is something I helped design. I commissioned its build with some humble modifications. It's obviously based on the Venetian side sword. This, for years, was my favorite trainer, and it still really is. But I have this with and without pommels. He has pommel weights to balance it. Now, and it says batteries not included. Oh, okay, yeah, well, whatever you get a buzz out of, Christian, that's fine. Hey, you know what? That's later down the line, John. I'm old like that. I write intro survey books because what we need, it drives me nuts. We have this great gulf between So You Never Held a Sword and, most of the high-end manuals where it's like, we're going to do a parry into second and riposte and you'll thrust to their outer quadrant. You're like, the what to the what to the who to the what? And all that's in French. Those are nice too, Steve. Steve referenced a different product, but I do like them. Okay, that's a great question, Christian. What defines a good blade in sharpness? This is great because it really depends on what you want the blade to do. There is this hyperfixation with excessive sharpness. And you have different scales. So let's pull out something handy, because this is here. This is a light Pakistani. Many people would call this a piece of junk blade, but I love it for its balance and its feel. And I understand its quality, but this is a reasonably sharp. Do I have a piece of paper? I don't know if I've done a sharpness test live. Probably not. Watch me. Yeah, this is not terribly. There we go. Can I get to bite? This is okay. Here's the problem. I can't do a sharpness test right now because my wrists aren't letting me do a sharpness test. But this is barely sharp, and in this case, it's kept for relative safety because I have a small child running around. Now, and that's really not. You want sharp enough to cut, and it doesn't have to be, but not so sharp it will chip. In most things. Now, I normally keep my neck knife pretty much razor sharp in that I can shave with it. Here. A little bit, but if a blade is really sharp, to be truly sharp, it has to be very hard. Now, the harder steel is, the more brittle, so you end up really dancing a fine line, which is what makes axes so fascinating, because largely axes have what I consider a working edge. An axe's relative sharpness is nowhere near the sharpness of a knife, usually. So let me pull out this is my little neck axe. This is a tiny little axe, but I keep it. Wow, that might be sharp. I need to sharpen my neck knife. I was using it earlier. This is what I would call a sharper than functional edge. It's a tight bevel. You can when you're checking an edge, don't do this lightly or without practice. You go sideways, and if it is sharp, you will actually feel the ridges of your fingerprint going across. It's something that's a very practiced. It's one of those very, very careful. Never ever go vertical against the blade, or you will open your finger up. Thank you, Christian, because for my Patreon members, I've been writing articles on tropes that bother me. And the first trope was people not knowing how to split wood safely or logically in movies. And it hurts my soul as somebody who spent way too much time out in the boonies splitting wood. Now, see, my mini K-bar is actually in the living room because that's where I left it when I was dealing with a situation. Being something went bump, and I used what was handy. So let's talk about other forms of sharpness I have available. All right, now. Sorry. My gear gets a little stacked around me. This is a late 20th, early 20th, 19th century. There's some argument. Saber. It's basically a heavy saber, very nice, very close to being in line with the patent saber in style, but it's got the stylized guard, so it's more of a gymnasium saber. Really nice double fuller, surprisingly flexible blade. This is a formidable weapon. I can do a great amount of damage with this, especially on a thrust. It has that almost I-beam. This is basically a sharpened I-beam. Now, it has a historic patina, so I don't usually mess with it much. I need to give it a good oil, and I'll have to decide how much I want to do to clean it up. But I have a brace of these, and this is a pair, not a brace. A brace would be pistols. But this, again, this is probably more. This is about, actually, ironically, this is about as sharp as you would have an axe. Now, I'm surprised that it's. Oh, sorry. My axe slid off. I really need to bring some weapon stands around my desk while I do these videos. That being said, this is remarkably formidable, and there are nicks in basically the sweet spot, right about the start of the line between the second. If you take a traditional blade like this, it's traditionally broken up into roughly 3 pieces when you're talking about it. And I will use the pronunciation I was originally taught, and I'm not going to brook argument over that because I have someone who's always about calling it fort. But forte, mesoforte, and foible. These all apply when you're talking about a sword to the strength, just like in music. And I would rather have somebody mispronounce it and understand it than call it weird. Now, the forte is the strongest against leverage, obviously, because this is a big lever. So that is where your blocking should be. The mesoforte is the middle. While it isn't necessarily strong or weak, it is a very common location for the sort of sweet spot when you're using it and you want to hit and turn it into a draw cut or blow through. A lot of times you aim here because if they move back, you still have impact range, and if they advance during your swing, you still have blade to guard, where you're not going to bump with the guard, which, while formidable, is not what you want. And then you have the foible, which is much weaker. But just as the purpose of the blade is staggered by leverage, the sharpness, the optimum sharpness, is also staggered. So you want this sharp because you might be doing a close-in draw cut, but you want this middle sharp. You get to the end, you want that sharp. So even if you do a little flip cut, Zorro style, you do some formidable damage quickly and efficiently. So it's not even necessarily constant on the same weapon. It's a complex and fascinating little concept. Now, the katana, when people talk sharpness, they often reference the katana's legendary properties. And we need to talk about the katana pretty much whenever this topic comes up. But we have to accept something. The katana is not sorcery. So you cannot cut through a tank with a katana. Yes, I've done this long enough that I've had somebody passionately explain to me how the katana they bought at the LaPorte County Fair could actually cut seamlessly through a tank. Okay, they can't. But because they are very sharp, they're also very brittle, and that's why they have a distinct draw cut slashing style to minimize impact. All right. Do all blades like knives have these, or just swords? Now, that's another really good question. Now, for safety, because I gesticulate, most of what's around me at any given point are trainers. This is, a good example for the audience, and because I do have a young son who goes everywhere in the house, except usually in here because we are guarded by my undead office assistant, Lydia. But we start getting into the line of a knife and a sword. This, to me, is a sword. A sword basically being the overall length of my arm to the outstretch. This is about what a short sword should be. There we go. Now, this still has those parts, but remember, that's for understanding logic. The vast majority of time, you think in terms of the forte and the foible, the strong and the weak. There is a mesoforte in here, but you really don't need it, especially with something like this. This is a cutlass. It's got a little bit of falchion kind of action feeling, but you're going to think of this as a pirate cutlass, and you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. Yes, John says I use a law to cut into a tank. Nothing wrong with light anti-tank weapons, but getting back to this is obviously still a sword, but even in my hands, this is getting close to a short sword. Now, we pull that down to something slightly shorter, okay? And I love this. This is my Sting replica. That was sent to me by John Miner. Now, but because this is based along a Celtic leaf blade, it actually has a very defined forte and foible, and they serve radically different purposes. Because this inward cut mirrors, hold on, a kukri, okay? In that, let me put these lines where you can kind of see, you see, this is an exaggeration of that inward cut here. This is more likely to pull and slice. So you hit, and the act of hitting digs in, and it rotates and it slices. It's much more exaggerated in the kukri, but you can see the idea. But the kukri is so specialized in the chop, it will kill, that it loses a lot of effectiveness in the thrust. Where a leaf blade, like this, still retains very much a formidable thrusting point, especially at this length. So what you have here is undoubtedly a short sword crossing into long knife territory. Now we're going to bring up something interesting, because this is, I could talk this stuff all week. This is a parry dagger. Now they are just a bit shorter. Although I have parry daggers that are actually this length. This very much is a more thrust-oriented weapon with still the ideas because of the fighting style, understanding the forte as you still want to block here, but when you start getting this short and you start looking at the length of something like, hold on, this, you realize it's essentially all forte at this point. The leverage effect, let me get that parallel, is this is essentially all forte. So you don't really have to worry about the weakness of the tip very much, because the leverage is fairly minimal compared to that of a longer sword. Then, let me drop back from that. I still need to fix, that's what I needed. Okay, I knew I forgot. Let's get something a couple more silly examples. This is one of my favorite trainers ever. I made this. This is my I lovingly call this trainer knifey. This is definitely all forte. The leverage effect is minimal, so you don't think in those terms. Now, I made this because I was annoyed, and my annoyance is a powerful force of nature when we're talking about training and helping people, because I believe at the end of the day, you should train with what you carry. Let me see what we have going on here. What? No, I don't care about dynamic whatchajiggies. Okay. Oh, okay. That is still, that's an update there. Okay, we are caught up there. Nothing new related to you guys. And I'm sorry I have to check that. Sick relatives, you understand. This is a knife trainer because I know so many people where I work with a lot of ladies. I work with a lot of people of diminutive size who other people wouldn't train because they either have a physical limitation or they don't have the personality to work with it. Not everyone can deal with the gung-ho Cobra Kai approach. It doesn't always work. Some people need a slightly gentler hand. Now, you ask them what happens if something goes bump in the night. They're like, I'll pull a steak knife out of the block. I'll pull the butcher knife and I'll check what's going on. Okay, Have you trained with a butcher knife? No. So being me, I look online looking for butcher knife style weapon trainers, and they sell Halloween butcher knives, but they're not sturdy. So I made this, ironically, out of cutting board because it's HDPE. It is not as dense, but is very similar material as the weapons used to make what's used to make that. No forte, no foible, very little concept of leverage when it's this small in there. But you pick it up because now this is a fairly medium-sized knife. You can practice, you can actually spar and learn your ranges so that, we're in full armor, we're sparring, we're cutting, we're having a wonderful combat discussion. You're going to do that, allow me to counter with a slice to your arm kind of thing. This weapon is very short. So to do the job, unless it's like a spike, it needs to be very sharp. It's also akin to something like this, which is a trench knife trainer. Now, this can get away with being a little more aggressive because I've seen these as straight spikes, but a straight, sharp blade in close, the smaller the blade, the sharper it really should be, till you get to things like my neck knife, which is razor sharp, or you get to what is affectionately referred to around here as the Hello Karambit. This is my Hello Kitty Karambit. I made this mostly to kind of annoy Steve, and because we needed soft style trainers for the Karambit to not actually injure anyone. I have a solid Karambit around here somewhere because I use it as a fidget spinner, but it tends to migrate with me when I'm on the phone. I have more weapons than anyone ever should, but I'm not even close. Give me all of them. This, because it's a minimalist concealed weapon, so this is very much a very deceptive weapon. You don't come out with this drawn like, haha, I have a knife. You walk up and they don't, by the way you're carrying it, you disguise it till you get in close. There was a wonderful video that's put out where they basically took a Marine Corps knife specialist with a karambit and that one of the leading pistol specialists. And the idea was for the pistol wielder, the gunman, to engage when he sees a threat. And it was discovered that roughly within 14 feet, very, very often, the knife actually can trump a firearm in deployability and effectiveness in that it's so disguisable. So if you have a little tiny knife and you want this to be super razor sharp, but because it's so short, it doesn't need to flex as much. So you don't have to be careful. Well, you have to be careful, but not as careful, balancing the temper so that it retains a lot of spring steel flexiness versus the action of what you're doing. So, and I know this is silly because I keep this silly. We need to keep this light or else it gets incredibly dull. But yeah, I hope that addresses your question. We'll skip Christian Bale to we froze up. Wow. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Okay, there we go. Like I said, we are having some real bad internet problems today. I don't quite know what's going on. I've been fighting them extensively. If you have a little knife, I'm here to dispel all the Asian myths. Yeah, no, okay. You want? Okay. My screen froze up, so I couldn't tell if I was still live, or if it had kicked me. And I do apologize if it kicks me. I prefer this is a tool first and a weapon like third or fourth. This is something I use to open boxes, whittle things, make things. I am a craftsman. This is the tool of my craft. But this is also a fairly formidable weapon if it needs to be deployed. Now, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I don't need to walk around looking macho and looking scary. And we've all seen some of the open carry types and the open knife guys who are like, I am macho. I got nothing to prove. Oh, hi. Awesome. Hi, Dusty. We got good people on tonight. I'm sorry. Give me just a second. My throat's a little dry. But absolutely. It doesn't. I could do a job with this. My problem is with a knife like this, I usually walk with a cane or a staff because, well, I am physically disabled. I have several problems. And while we're figuring it all out, my mobility is currently impaired. Now, one of my favorite canes to walk with traditionally has been this, which is a carbon fiber cane. It's nearly indestructible. It weighs next to nothing. That means, given my difficulty, I can generate a tremendous amount of force by upping the speed of the impact. Moderately hard with something really heavy, or really hard with something light, a lot. That's where this comes in. But why would I do that when I carry one of these and I'm clearly, a sword guy? If I have to defend myself and I can use a stick, I will do so because that's a limited response. If I have any opportunity not to engage in lethal style combat, I will because I don't want to kill anybody. What could I? Sure. Could I also break and maim limbs? Absolutely. It's always when you're looking at legal self-defense, and I keep that in mind in my training, guys. When I teach my students, I try to do so from an eminently practical mentality, which seems silly for fantasy and historical, but when you're developing muscle memory, okay? When you've developed muscle memory, it's there. So I don't want to leave what are called training scars. I don't want to teach someone wrong and have that affect them at a real time. So everything we do is very practical. So I know if I were to take a sword, knee jerk, I'm going to run somebody through, it's going to be over. But then I have to explain to a jury of my peers why I use deadly force. And everything is about negating the threat. If I can escape a conflict before it's a conflict, I will do so. If I can talk down a conflict, which I have done. I once talked a guy out of robbing my store when I was a closing clerk at a grocery store called Al's in South Haven, Indiana. But I actually talked the armed would-be robber out of pulling his gun and got him to leave because I'm good at what I do. But I count that as a victory. He didn't go to jail. I didn't get shot. Nothing bad happened. He got a card with the number for work one, and I hope he's doing well. I don't want to have to kill somebody. Now, if I pull a knife in defense, for this knife, it is not necessary. It is either initially for this dude, don't. As a deterrent, maybe. But there are, terminal areas that can be targeted. The armpit, sides of the neck, groin, femoral artery, that with something even as small as this can be fatal. Eyeball shots, things like this. Very mean, nasty, horrific things that you can do to somebody. I don't want to do mean, nasty, horrific things because every time I've had to defend myself in a unpleasant situation, it gets added to the cadre of nightmares. I don't want to have nightmares about having to mess up some dude. Brachial artery. Exactly. There are a lot. But if I take a stick, I'm going to get to that. if I take a stick, I have a good shot at breaking or damaging a collarbone, which is considered the most painful break. Hand damage. There are, you've got nerve clusters right here. Now they talk about the squeeze thing, and most humans, shut up, John, you're not human, can't reach out and squeeze hard enough to hit some of the nerve clusters. But a strike to say that sweet spot on the chin, on the shin, a sweet spot on the chin could knock somebody out, can be devastating. Now, are there any common injuries that a fencer swordsman will face? A lot of it depends on your sport and situation. Let's get live steel out of the way. Anytime you're dealing with live steel in a practical setting, that means somebody's pulled a knife, you've pulled the knife, whatever, you have to expect to be cut. That's just probably going to happen. Now you can mitigate where, you can shield with the outer parts of your arm, but there's a good chance you're going to get cut. Not pleasant, but that's the reality. A lot of times you won't even feel it initially. That's the scary part of a short knife. If you're talking modern, if you're talking about sparring anything from, if you're sparring collegiate, that means strip fencing, Olympic style, what you think of the guys in the white suit with the swish and Mr. Poke. The biggest threat to a Olympic fencer, aside from possibly slaps, are the broken blade. That's their nightmare. Where a blade flexes. So let me show you something. This is my elven thin blade I made pretty much on a whim. I quite like it. Here, I'll show you. That's a hand-carved handle, a very nice brass candle holder died and was kind of modified a bit to get the shape. And this is a foil blade. Now, it has there's a steel button flat part, and there's a tip on the end. I'm gonna, you know what? That's a good point. I'm gonna talk. Oh, Cindy, you're always a beat ahead of me. I love it. But as you can see, there's some weakness, and it's not a proper S-curve. I will never fight with this weapon. This is just a display piece, something to wear when I'm not allowed to wear live steel. Because there is what's called an S-curve, and this is a deadly thing to see. It's not obvious, but there's a slight bend, which means it will fail right there. And then you have a sharpened piece of metal. That is terrifying. And obviously, impalement becomes an issue. Now, Cindy mentioned another common where a shot goes up under the mask. My mask actually isn't up here anymore. But you wear the fencing. Is it? Nope. Okay. You wear the fencing mask, and a shot comes up and pokes right into the soft spot. I call it the Timothy Dalton. Hot fuzz, anyone? Oh, I want some ice cream. It hurts, and it can be very dangerous. Shots to an unprotected neck can damage the vocal cords. It can break the bones in here, affect the larynx. It can actually end your ability to sing or speak. Now, beyond that, when you get to SCA style fencing or heavy rapier, which was originally done with Schlagers, and I'm sorry, guys, I only have limited tools immediately in reach. This is my personal Schlager. The crossguard was made by John Miner, who's right here, of Swakhammer Metals, and he does occasionally do custom work. When I can get my workshop fixed, there was some damage due to a flood. I will probably do a restoration on this, polish it up, let you guys see how to do that. It'll look great. This is a much sturdier piece of steel. Now, we got to talk about these guys. Bone breaks can happen from a slap. This is a blunt blade. Okay. A blunt blade. So small finger bones are frequently broken, thumb bones. In my case, I have an extreme where I was doing both my student and I were doing a lunge. At the time, he wasn't a student anymore; he was just a colleague. And I realized he'd come in way too hot. And that was a product of a time where people made the mistake of combining Italian blade work with Spanish footwork. And what that does, if you've got a lot of Italian blade work, very lungy, very pushy, and you apply it to Spanish, you put a tremendous amount of body force up and into the shot. It makes calibration really, really hard. And he struck me right here. I broke my blade off and I went to get the flip and my wrist popped. So instead of catching, it spasmed. I have had old wrist damage before all this started. I took a hard shot to the sternum. It compressed my rib cage. It cracked 3 of my ribs and tore 5 from the sternum. And then I had to pop everything basically back. I didn't know this happened, and I actually continued to fight the entire night, just feeling a little oddly winded. And then I had to do something the next day, and I nearly blacked out from pain. I was very fortunate, as any of those could have curled in and punctured my lungs. So that is why when we're fencing, I really recommend the use of a plastron, which is a plastic body piece, both for males and for females. Where is my plastron? I know it's over here. Okay, I will. Between this week and next week, I'm going to organize this area. It's gotten awash with weaponry, and it's getting a little harder to figure out where everything is at any given moment. But now, I have seen John's talking about times on the SCA where Schlagers have been cold and broken. I have seen, cracked. I've seen a gentleman by the name of Dale Dreesen borrowed one of my remaining Zamoranos and L-bent it because it didn't have time to warm up. So he did a thrust and it just L-bent. He still owes me one. I've not forgotten. But the temperature and metal is very important to understand. And when I talked about the brittleness in combat, that happens with live steel too. They can shatter when it's cold and they hit a hard surface, or they try to flex and there's no room because the crystalline structure just won't. So that is part of why I'm such a proponent for the modern plastics, because they're just safer. The nylon, like the nylon swords, but getting into injuries. Now, let's talk about common injuries you don't expect. Twisted ankles. Your footwork has to be perfect. If you fall, you can twist and break things. Knee damage. One of the biggest things you will see as a martial artist, if you're not training carefully, is knee damage. If you ever see that walk that's almost like John Wayne, it looks kind of like a strut, and it's kind of weird how certain large men or certain older martial artists in hard art styles, like some forms of karate, some boxers, that's from not working with your tendons for your form. So if you're fencing, you keep your toe pointed at the bad guy. Hey, John, deal with it. You're old and you're big and your knees are shot. You've earned that, but a lot of it comes from some of the harder martial arts. I'm not going to give you an out when people want to know the price that comes with it. Me, I've had broken fingers, the rib thing. Heat is a huge thing. If you're wearing armor and it doesn't ventilate, much SCA armor is not ventilated because of the layers of fabric to be safe against a broken sword. Those are great, but they don't stop the impact, so you still get all the bruises. But in the heat will kill you. It nearly killed me. John saved my life because I had heat exhaustion and they pulled it up. Back problems. Again, this is why we stretch, slow work, build up to not strain and pull things. Neck sprains. Okay, in heavy combat, neck sprains are much more common because that's that tremendous force hitting the can with nowhere to go, so the head rocks around. Fitted armor is so crucial. Armor bites, where two pieces of armor pinch. That's why when I want to take a moment and I tell this, but this is important. Female fencers, anybody engaging in this who happens to have mammaries. So even if you don't necessarily identify as female, but your upper body has that, wear a solid piece plastron, not the cups. Now you'll see some companies, and they're getting rarer because thank God they're listening, used to sell these disc plastrons as chest protection for women. And what happened is they made a scissoring effect in a couple cases. Impact came, they bunched up, and yeah, scissored off a piece. That's not good. You want a one piece. Part of that is, and I can't stress it enough, that repeated bruising of the same area has been linked with certain types of cancer, especially breast cancer. So please, I don't care what group you're in, if they don't have a hard over the chest requirement, do it anyway. They aren't worth injury or cancer, whatever the group. I don't care if you're fighting boffers, protect yourself. Okay? I have seen I've seen torn groins from inappropriate footing. Your footwear needs to be sturdy. It needs to be appropriate for the surface. So you want sneakers. You want something sneakers soled on a smooth surface. You want something maybe with a more aggressive grip, boot style, on a uneven outdoor list field or trail. You don't want to. I don't care how pretty your pirate boots are. If the bottom of the sole is not safe to fight in, don't fight in them. And this is from a guy whose icon is my device, my icon, my identifier is literally a white boot based on a pair of boots I used to have. And John's listing off other injuries. And they're and that's the thing. The best has the dangerous side of what we do, and I don't disguise it. I found that I've seen egos break. And if you want to see where a lot of damage ego, if you come on the field thinking you are the baddest thing on two legs, at some point, somewhere, someone who you least expect will adjust that attitude. I have proudly been that guy at different points. I had the blessing of growing up in such a fashion that I have this face, and I'm a short little guy. That's what, yeah, you protect yourself. Never step on a field if you don't feel you can protect yourself. Now, that's separate from training. I want to talk about that. Dusty, you're pulling out some great stuff. If you're training, I've known a lot of very meek is a good word, young ladies who came to they want to learn to sword fight, maybe to help regain power because of some issues, or part of a never again kind of thing. There are a lot of reasons, and some of them were not ready to spar because they wanted to learn, but they weren't ready to do that, and that's okay. you drill and you put in what you want and you take out what you get, you know? But you have to trust who you're training with, which is why, as much fun as it is for two buddies to pick up sticks on wail on each other, it's one of the most dangerous things. Not just because you two can hurt each other, but it can build a false sense of security, and you pick up bad habits from each other. So I'm very particular who spars with newer students till their style is sort of condensed. They have to know what their fight is. And one thing I teach mercilessly in my list fields is sort of legendary is tactical awareness. One thing I am a big proponent of. One second. Where's one of them? There we go. God, this stuff. Some of this gear got dusty, so I don't use it very often. What got me? Anyway, this is what I lovingly call, this isn't a true wibbly knife. The wibbly knife is even wibblier. But this is a rubber training knife. And one I tell my students whenever they're fencing to have some kind of backup weapon. Because if we're sparring, yay, and you drop a weapon, usually we'll be nice enough, hold, pick up your sword, we'll get back to it, But sometimes we won't. Why? To teach them, one, not to drop their weapon, and two, to expect debaggery. One of the things I teach is there's always another a-hole. And this particular model, it's made in America. It's a training knife. I think it's through Cold Steel. This one's a little bit warped because it's rubber and it got put. These are great. They're not the best for blade-on-blade training because they're flexible enough that they don't really bite right. But if you want blade defense and aggression, these are great soft trainers. Let my armies be the rocks and the trees. Yes, tactical awareness and using the terrain to your advantage is one of my favorite things to promote. But getting back before I forget, because this is actually where it gets good. Almost all my students carry something like this. A soft, preferably, trainer. And part of their goal throughout practice is, as long as it is safe to do so, either on the list field or near it, we kind of have active fighter zones. It gets a little complex. They shank each other. If somebody's not paying a lot of attention or they're looking at their phone at practice and nobody's looking at them, if you can sneak up and you get a little pokey poke to the kidney, there's some bonus points. The points really aren't worth anything other than momentary bragging, but everybody loves these as long as it's all consensual. And we know who can handle that, who can't, etc. We talk, we communicate. It's amazing what communication can do. But that starts building a healthy level of paranoia. In the words of Laurel K. Hamilton, paranoia is another word for longevity. So yeah, I love having a little bit of thing like that. So yeah, that's one of the great hazards. I'll keep that up here. I kind of like fidgeting with that. We are at the hour halfway point, so I want to stop. I want to remind everyone the Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by The Simple Sword, available through Amazon. This is made possible by that and my loving patrons who just donating $1 a month allows me to buy trainers, to review them, keep my equipment up to some level of par, eventually replace its backdrop, and, build things up. So I really appreciate anything you can do. I'm a proud member of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, which is available on Facebook. My phone has died, so I can't bring up the image, but they're a wonderful group of people, including the amazing Brian K. Morris, Ted Davies over at Ted Davies Art and Artistry. Stupid O'Clock. I actually regularly am on that show, held by Joe Dog McKeel over at HoloCon, their YouTube channel. Guys, you need to look into this bunch. Willis Schuyler has her Pillow Talk. These are authors and artists and comic book creators and writers who all come together to make awesome stuff and build each other up because a rising tide lifts all boats. So look into that. All right. Hey, Michaela, I was just talking about the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, and Michaela's on it. Okay. Hey, Nick. Well, that's what she says to me. Hey, Michaela, I get distracted when attractive women walk into the room. It's just one of those things. It never went away, no matter how old I get. But, yes. So when you go, part of why I write my books, part of the reason I instruct people is so that they don't have to make the mistakes. Yeah, I'm excited, Steve. There is a phenomenon known as the Nick field. Technology hates me. I've just come to understand that I'm a walking hexus. Very Harry Dresden. Every car I ever have has electrical problems, computers short out, cell phones to get worse because they're usually right next to me all the time. It's just part of the loving joy of being everybody's favorite freelance swordmaster. Now, yeah, technology hates me, but that being said, I totally lost my point before I got on that tirade. Anyhow, we'll just keep rolling. I'll figure something out. You guys tend to like this. This has been a really good day. Watches die. That's true. Watches. My grandfather was an arc welder, and he would be magnetized enough that any pocket watch had to be glass side down, or it would stop. He killed him. I think it's something in our electrolyte balance makes us batteries. It's weird, but oh, I'm sorry, Cindy, that you're saying. But yeah, go. Michaela Drade is a great author. You should follow her. All these people who have little circles of their YouTube stuff, you should follow them because they're awesome. But yeah, when I teach, I've made mistakes. I've made little mistakes. I've made big mistakes. I don't want you to make a mistake. That's why I like to buy trainers, because if I buy a trainer, we have a tale of two axes. And it always breaks my heart when I break this up. These are two axe trainers. This is one of my favorite trainers of all time and is part of the holy trinity of offhand trainers for martial arts. Cold Steel put out 3 great secondary weapons that I absolutely adore, being this, the parry dagger, and the medieval buckler, all in their polypropylene or santoprene black indestructible. This is the Axe Gang trainer. It kills me because I adore this thing. I love the way it feels. I love the way it's balanced. Not many people know it, but the first weapon I actually trained with for self-defense and actuality was the axe. The problem is this material is not the same as what they normally use, and it is so soft that it dings, and when it takes a ding, it actually forms a sharp edge that can cut people. So I can't use this beautiful trainer to practice, even though it moves and handles just like a real axe. It really hurts. But by me buying and saying, movie prop, yes. Fighting tool, no, I can save your money. Michaela Jade's going to be at QuadCon tomorrow. And hey, thank you. You have a good one, Dusty. Stay safe. So if you're going to QuadCon, Michaela, can you share a link in the comments about QuadCon so they can come out and see you and buy your romance novels, because that's awesome. Off topic, yes. Am I being nice? Absolutely. I do that sometimes. Now, when we're fighting, this is why we need a curriculum, and we need to follow the curriculum so that we can build up safely, understand each level. And I believe in training to mastery, not this grade thing, not even a ranking. Because my view on training really, for the vast majority, isn't about you beating so-and-so. Because there are some people who will have physical traits that make them almost impossible to beat, so that you can't judge your skill development on that. And there are some people who will be so physically easy for you to beat that you can't judge your skill on that. You have to do it on you. And it's funny because when we honestly look at ourselves and how we're performing, what works, what doesn't, and pay attention, you lose a lot of hubris. It sounds counterintuitive, but you get this almost humble because you see your own failings, you accept them, and you work on them. So philosophically, that's what I'm about. The sword is part of a venue for encouraging and building up and motivating that whole system. And it's really hard. But you guys, when I see somebody work and they start going through, not to shout out Cindy Cat, but right now she's working on a form with the fans, with iron fans. And it's a beautiful form. It's very challenging. I am so proud to see what she is learning in this fan fighting form. I dabbled in fan. You will find most weapons I've dabbled in. And I have my system, which is very much like between 60 and 80% of any other given system, that works enough to run everything. That's what I do. I'm a generalist to an extreme. I am extremely generous, militantly moderate. I am common sense swordmaster. But yeah, John says if you can understand your limitations, you can work around those to make it better for you. Which is why, even though I teach people an approach, I don't say this is how to fight. I say let's find how you fight and make you fight the best version of your fight, or simply find your fight. And how you fight will dictate, drop my beverage, how you learn what weapons work for you, what weapons don't. And guess what? If something doesn't feel good, doesn't feel right, there's no need to train in it. I don't care if it's the most popular weapon in the world. Don't. To run a parallel, I know some firearms people who don't like Glocks. Are they popular? Yes. Are they sort of not a gold standard, but a standard? Yes. John says, I've never said to a student, you can't. Can't is a 4-letter word for a reason. Me and Sergeant Bilko feel it through the hearts. Now I will say you need to stop before you hurt yourself. And part of a trainer's job is to recognize when their students are getting too tired, too dehydrated, too sore, or they've got something going on in the background that's affecting the mental game, and intervene before something goes wrong. There's a mentoring aspect, and that is key, folks, when you're teaching people. But there are two basic approaches. You can try to make somebody who's going to be a carbon copy of me. I fight in this style. I fight the hitting Mitsurugi style. Good for you. Okay. Gotcha. Terrifying, but gotcha. And that's an anime reference, but you got to have some fun with this. Like I said, if you're ever taking it too serious, you're missing part of the point. Wow, I'm like a caffeinated Uncle Iroh some days. Anyhow, the other thing that does, weapons need to be scaled to the wielder. And we talk a little bit about that in the Fighting Axe. I talk about it a lot in the Simple Sword. Why is this one of my favorite concussive swords? Because it is at the bottom of the divider. For me, a weapon, it should be no long, that I consider a sword should be no shorter overall than my midline to my outstretched index finger. This is maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe an inch off that. I can work with that. There's wiggle room. Now, I find you don't ever want to fight with a blade that is much longer. then the center of your middle line to a blade. So this is going to be optimal for me. Now, that's one-handed. Caveat that to be one-handed. That's one-handed. Now, yeah, John, you do. That's why, John, look sometime at the scaling. You fight with short swords most of the time. Most people don't even recognize it because to your scale, what you are fighting with most often is something the equivalent of this long. Look at the weapons you prefer. A lot of them fall into this rough length of blade. Now, the hilt might be a little longer, but not much. And then you might fight with something a little long, where the half to there. But you're 6 foot multiple, so it makes sense. There's a guy by the name who went by the handle of Magnus up in Michigan who was 7'1", 7'2". Yeah, he really warranted a 45-inch rapier. Abso-fraggin-lutely. A 52 would be well within scale of a thrusting weapon. You can get a bit longer. My problem is, and this is one of the great dividers between me and most things like the society, I want you to be able to draw it. If you can't draw, that's why I figured use a 52. The weapon from a sheath, worn comfortably at your hip, wiggle room for a frog, understood. You shouldn't be using it because then it's only good if you have it out. It's not practical, and you'll be teaching your ranges for how far. Like, I know I can do this right now. I'm doing this at my window. I'm not going to reach it. I can set this, it'll go right over the light in my TV. I know the reach of my weapons, and I know my reach. That's done by years of training. And that's how aged fencers can hold up against younger, faster, stronger ones. Because they know when they don't have to attack. You're out of my reach. I might have to block you, but I don't need to attack you, so I won't waste any energy doing it. So that's what we want to keep in mind. And that level of mastery only comes from understanding your body and what works for you. Now, this, as a hand axe, ironically, is a little long for me. And John says I like dual long swords with 49-inch blades. That's about, look at your reach, John. That is the same as me running 236s or 234s, depending on, how you measure. That makes sense. It's real easy. Split your height, which, in my case, my height is 5'8". Okay? So that's 68 inches. That's 34-inch blade is the exact length. 12-inch tip to tip. 12. I don't understand what you mean by 12-inch tip to tip. Are you talking your quillions? But that would fit your scale too. Your hands are huge, so I can't use your numbers to teach anybody but giants. Then, okay, that's a great. Cindy makes a great question. What if my wingspan is not the same as my height? My wingspan is 2 inches greater than my height. Oh, 12 foot tip to tip. I'm sorry, my vision blurred. I didn't see that was a foot mark. Yeah, well, that just makes sense. You're a giant, John. You are a giant. That's okay. If my wingspan is not the same as my height, my wingspan is 2 inches greater than my height. I would then say that's a really while your arms can handle it, you will find that if a sword is balanced to your wingspan and not your height, it may drag a bit on low guards. I would far rather have a little bit of wiggle room in a draw and be slightly shorter than use something that's slightly too long, especially since the longer the sword, the greater the leverage, which is why when I would spar somebody like John, I pretty much put away my 34. I might pull out my 30 and a parry dagger, of which is 18, a blade basically like this, or two of them, because I knew I had to get inside anyway, and he's so much stronger than me. I have to be able to either catch or void the weapons to get in and do anything. That's why I'm a big fan of about a 2-foot long blade. So we'll be talking about that. Excuse me. Let me just get these weapons down. Thank you. So yeah, theoretically, you should be able to draw the longer length, Cindy, but because of your height, when you take a stance, it will be a little more leverage, and your low line cut will tangle more. So that'll be good. John says, I taught you well. What about jumping into shorts? John, you reminded me that was permitted. Jumping into shorts aggressively at that point in my life was not something new. That came back from old days of hand-to-hand issues with people much taller than me. Yeah, 12 foot. John, basically, when things open up, John and Steve are going to spar, and I'm going to sit back, preferably with a Mountain Dew slushie, and have a grand time watching this. Because whatever hilarity happens, I win in that one. That is going to be my fat satyr hobbit self knocking back something glorious. And having a wonderful, wonderful time watching you two duke it out. Occasionally, I've had a few bouts like that. You know what? Steve is one of those people I really use a bit as a litmus test for larger opponents traditionally, or more aggressive opponents. Because the Steve and guy named Al, who's a dear friend of mine, had some amazing, they had alternate takes on Salat. Okay, Steve. When the world opens back up, I will be having certain special guild days, and that requires everyone involved to be vaccinated. I won't have anybody not vaccinated for something like that because of safety. That being said, because I won't be a vector for my community, sorry. They may not necessarily believe in the existence of the illness, but I have the obligation of my education to believe for them. That might have been one of the most powerfully arrogant things I've ever said, but it's the truth, and I'll just ride with it. That being said, absolutely, I will put you two against each other. Heck, if you want, we'll make it live. No, John, it will not be March 26th. I guarantee it will not. We won't have that March 26th. Oh, that's your wait, is that your vaccination date? I took that as vacation date. If that's your vaccination date, wonderful, John. I will feel so much better when you are vaccinated. If not, me it will. Okay, good. I'm not going to, because I'm a librarian and my wife is a librarian, we are really slated to be vectors for contagion. That meaning, if we get it, we would have a lot of opportunity to intersect and spread it to our community, and I won't do that. Not if I can prevent it, because I don't want people to get sick because of something I did. That being said, especially a little later in the summer, because I need to catch up with some specialized housework and repairs and make some adjustments up here. I'll get out and, oh, cool, tagged as essential worker. Hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad you are. Get safe, John. We will have a thing where we come out, and who knows, We might do it on a Friday and just live stream it. I'll talk to the parties involved. We might be able to set up my laptop and maybe by then get a decent webcam to plug into it just to run for the purpose of live streaming these goodies. I think you guys might really enjoy that. And then, yeah, we'll put you in the list field, let you guys armor up, let you play. Because I think that needs to be done. I may not fight as much as I used to due to the limitations. We'll have to see. And while that terrifies me to my core, I'm going to be honest with you guys. And part of being honest is admitting I told everyone I've trained with over the last 20 years or so that I am on borrowed time for certain things. And that time is eroding. I will fight it tooth and nail and never give up, never surrender. But at the same time, responsibility. And I will be responsible and say, I may have to stand on the sidelines. I may have to sit on the sidelines. I may have to roll up to the sidelines. And if that's the case, I've done everything I can to help people out. And then, I'm a cog in a bigger machine. If I get worn out, I accept that as part of my job. That's part of the gig. Yay, mortality. But nothing to be sad about because I'm going to Waldorf and Statler. Waldorf and Statler. That's so hard. Oh my gosh. I would love to get. I have new limitation to Nick, but I will not go silently. Of course you won't, John. John, you've never gone silently into anything except scaring the crud out of your son on a certain dark trail one night. And you still were loud enough to wake up the dead. Literally. If you want to know the single biggest reason for my retirement, well, the second, because, from paranormal stuff, it would be, I have a son and stuff can't follow me home. But after that, it would probably be the Minor Clan and the messes I've encountered around them. Good Lord, y'all are a colorful lot. But, guys, this is great. I will be getting my paw. Yeah, I think looking at the slicks, I have to basically once more push really hard to try to get back into shape, but it's a very careful due to injury and situation. So I think I will be acquiring that 1.33 as something to review. And if it works like I hope it will be, that will be my near constant companion for a while. And we'll see how that goes. And if it doesn't, I will probably be using Sting and using my Cutlass a lot. And I'm looking forward to trying some of these weapons. I need to make adjustments, and that's cool. It's only fair, I caught some people messaging me because now years ago, there are some videos, if you look through, I'm walking with a cane while fighting. That's because it was a bad leg day. And on a bad leg day, I go out with a cane. Sometimes I use the cane offensively. Sometimes it just holds me up. There's a very real chance that I'll be going out with a crutch in the near future. I don't like using two crutches because I can't do other things, but I may be fighting, very Long John Silver. Not because I have anything missing, but because it doesn't work. And yes, John's making very elegant bravados, but we're going to see. And that's okay because it takes, when I have had students with limitations who were scared of being laughed at, scared of failing, scared of, a few even disappointing me, which is balderdash. It takes a lot to do that. And even then I would stop doing what I do. Have you met me? Well, if you have, but yeah, you'll probably see me go out on a crutch at one point or another with the way things are looking. And you go, wow, he got chunky. Yeah, the pandemic pudge is a real thing. And I spent a year pretty much laid out with severe problems before the pandemic started. So it's been a run, guys. And the trick is, do we stay status quo and just rot, or as John would say, I came into this world covered in someone else's blood, kicking, screaming and kicking, and will not shy away from going out the same way. Yeah, but I don't want to. I don't. It's funny, guys. I teach the sword to heal people. I teach the sword to defend. If I wanted to teach applied violence, I teach firearms because it's much harder to block with a firearm. Okay, John. Let's. We're not doing Beowulf funeral right now, bud. You're walking funny. You're not that far along. I refuse to accept that you are. That's no. Batsu. No. We're not doing that. You're doing well, especially for a man of your age, especially for a giant of your age. It's not easy, but you're going to do fine, and you're going to come out, and at some point, you and Steve are going to both basically fight yourselves to exhaustion, neither of you admitting that you're getting older, and it's going to be a great time, and I'm going to sit back and laugh, and then we're going to eat good food, and we're going to tell stories and have fire, because that's what's important. Good practice. You do things. You fight. You do. Maybe you throw some sharp, shiny things at the boards. All that good stuff. Maybe you bang on an anvil for a while. This is good. Then you have food, and you fire, and you sing, and you laugh, and you goof around. And they're in appropriate humor. And then once everybody is either asleep or sober to drive, you go home. That is far more. And yes, I'm going to say it, John, because you have forced me. You give an Arab a sword and he turns it into a knife. Can I give it to me, daughter, when you're dead? Yes. Now I want to watch 13th Warrior. Thank you, John. I'm in a mood, and I've been poking fun at another dear friend by the name of Skunk Rocker, who needs that loving, abrasive, willing to go toe to toe. No shut. No, now we're talking. No poop. There I was floating down the tippy canoe in the dark because somebody didn't want to ruin their night vision with frickin' buffalo carp ramming the underside of the canoe as not. I swear there were actual banjos being played and coyotes. Yep. Good times. Scary. The wife is still mad, and I nearly died from hypothermia. But at least there was symmetry. And yeah, we have old stories. And every time John comes out, you get to hear pieces of the old stories. And the funny thing is, I know people watching this. We're off topic, but that's fine. I know people watching this think those old fat guys are exaggerating or fibbing or making story. Nope. We are actually downplaying the levels of our stupidity in our relative youth. My gray hair was long since earned, both by being married for a long time. My wife is proud of that. That's why I can make that joke. And by being exposed to vast amounts of strangeness and stupidity at a very early age on. And I'm proud of it. Because you know what? I faced all that stuff sober. No wonder I'm nuts. But guys, all joking aside, spring is starting to get here. There's some talk that this is the deceptive false spring that hits Indiana. Some saying it is spring. Start your drilling if you haven't. Don't jump into practice having done nothing. Now, if you're looking for the sign to say well, maybe I should start getting, laying the groundwork. Now is that, yes, Tommy almost drowned. Wait. Tommy almost drowned me, John. Yeah. No. Shoot. I can't remember. But yeah, no, Tommy, because it's not deep, throw the pole. But anyway, that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear about the ins and outs of sword fighting. I want to talk about something that relates to John. This is a boar spear. This is a short boar spear. It's about 5 foot of shaft with about another. Well, let me see. I think so. It ends up being almost 5'5" overall, so you can do the math. I love this. John made it for me. I have to do some adjustments and tweaking when my hands are reliable, which they're not right now. But I'm really looking forward to taking this out. A boar spear is something I would recommend to any smaller size Western or Eastern martial artist. There's a lot of spear systems. Avoiding the unholiness that is wushu steel. Because it's a great range game. It lets you build up. It lets you expand. You know what, John? I will start drawing with my short swords so they get, yes, please. Because there's something that I need to talk to you guys about. And this one I want to talk to some of the older Western martial artists out there. I'm talking to John, I'm talking to Steve, I'm talking to some other folks, and I am talking to me too. We had to ask ourselves something, and it's a horrible, painful question to ask ourselves. The question is, what have we done lately? Because it's so easy for me to reach back 15, 20 years and pull out some great stories. And yeah, over the pandemic, most people have done next to nothing. But if you have family who practice with them. Not just for the sake of drilling and getting them into shape and maintaining your form and altering your form to your condition, but to keep the stories coming, to keep doing something, to keep putting back in. This isn't, the Western martial arts aren't something you put in for a few years and then you get to draw out for a few years. Because unfortunately, the vast majority of the world will pass you by. Well, you'll be like, I did this, and it was heroic in 1989 or 1997 or 1992. I won this, I lost this, we did that. The question everyone will cruelly, unfailing ask every one of us is, yeah, but what have you done lately? Hurts. I don't like it, but it's true. And when I look at what I've done lately, is I'm back up. Yeah, I'm back walking and I'm fighting being in a wheelchair. And anybody who's had a severe enough physical limitation where that wheelchair is starting to lean in hard, that's pretty dang impressive. If I can't train, I'm writing. Hence the fighting axe. I have 4 books definitely planned in the Simple Sword, the Historical Manual of Defense series, the Manual of Defense series. I want to do a book on staves, pole arms, and like axes, proper two-handed axes, because fighting with a two-handed axe did not belong in a hand axe. The fighting axe is much more geared towards something like this. Modern tomahawk fighting axe. Hatchet today I almost bought, but I'm going to price it out before I do. Really nice live steel hatchet, very light, very short-handled, and I may just have to order one, not necessarily as a combative, although it is a combative, but as a bushcraft item. I have to look up the reviews, because I'm not sure how I feel about the material of the handle. And, that has something to do with the guild, because I think, John, write the grimoire both metaphysically and sword-based. Get that out there. It's, you may know that I talk about the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, a bunch of independent authors who help put things out there. It's almost like I know a bunch of people that can help build you up if you're willing to help build them up, which is kind of how things are supposed to be, So yeah, work on that. I will be writing the staff book, because for me, staff, spear, cane, felling axe, camp axe, essentially, as a style, all get very close in application. Pole arms, very close. They all live. Those guys fight together. But to do what you do, you have to know how the simple sword part of the system works. And then the axe, and what's going to build on it and reapply is the staff. And then we'll get into the strong sword, which will be things like great swords, falchions, two-handed weapons, your katana family of weapons, your odachis and no-dachis and wakizashis. We're going to talk, and it will, like all the books, it's a primer. This is a system to be a primer. So I want to get those two books out. My goal this year, I've decided, is to publish across my different venues. So not just Western martial arts. That's through the comic book stuff with Luke Stone over at Terraform Comics, who's an amazing person who runs Hybrids, the Sons of Gods. Yours truly is the designer of the RPG. I don't toot my horn often, but this is a great, fast system, and I've been working on it for a year in the background while nobody else was looking. At points, literally, because I couldn't type because my hand stopped working when they did the nerve tests and it pulled everything. I couldn't grab. So I literally punched out with a pen in each hand letters on some of this. Some of the Fighting Axe was written that way because the story and the job was important. So you write and you do. Even if this is all you got, even if you're like type, man, this is Wing Chun typing fists, Yeah, I do love a good concussive maul weapon, because remember, the splitting maul was my baby back in the day, and I still find it an effective, efficient. There is a tragedy to this. Cold Steel, the company, I actually love their trainers, made an axe head cane trainer. And a student of mine said he had ordered me one for Christmas, so I didn't buy one myself. And it never came through. And they've been kind of removed. They're hard to, I can't find them readily. But that's definitely, yeah, Manda with the glaive. Manda loves the glaive. Manda didn't want me to put this on the wall because she wants it down where she can reach it. She loves this thing. Okay, guys. Hashtag don't tell Amanda. Her birthday is at the end of the month, John. If maybe something like this with a standard glaive head and a butt spike were to come down, that might be enough to get her out to play. She has shoulder problems. She has some limitations too, largely from fighting in armor that didn't quite work right. You guys were still learning, and that's okay. And just she has some conditions we don't talk about because it's none of everybody's business. But yeah, her birthday's coming up at the end of the month, and I would love to see something like that. So if you think, awesome. She's not paying attention right now. She's listening to a podcast of some sort, and doing crochet. So I should be safe. Hashtag don't tell Amanda. Much like the swords I'm probably going to order with the guild money. No, she doesn't care about that, but it's fun to pretend she does sometimes. But yeah, thank you, John. You are awesome. So yeah, because and I do want to talk about her for a second. All that aside, I couldn't do what I do without her. She is the major breadwinner in this family. She helps, and that woman is the most impressive, brilliant, creative, intimidating. She doesn't see it, but balls to the walls. Woman I've ever met. And she inspires me to be a better man, and she has done so. For it will be when do we get married? Yeah, November 2001. Because it's a year less than a year. Going on 20 years of being married. 22 together. Wait. No, start dating November of 2000. No, so then it was 2002. Yes, 2002. Sorry, my brain's farting. But anyway, we've been together my entire adult life. I couldn't imagine life without that woman. I love her more than anything on this earth, except maybe my son. And they are my world. And if you ever find somebody who makes you a better person, you lock them down in your life somehow, hook, crook, or whatever. Awesome. And John, it's real easy. Take this down to here. No bars. Blunt butt spike on, some kind of butt spike on the end. I can't surprise her right now with funds because I really can't drive with my hands. I haven't been able to drive by myself in a couple months because I can't trust my hands to maintain the grip on the wheel right. So getting out, can't order something and surprise her. So thank you, John. You guys rock. You guys are the best people I could have in my life. I love you guys so much. Now I want to take some extra time to plug. I want to plug John Miner, Swakhammer Metals. Obviously, is doing something else awesome. John, if you don't, please at least set up a Facebook public group. I need something that I can reference to share what you do out there, because you have the capacity, obviously, to do amazing things. And I want you to get the business. I want to be able to review your works, obviously. But, and we'll talk. I have design ideas that you can implement better than I can. So we'll get your stuff out there and get you generating, because I don't see why. See, what I would like to do, John, it's you don't know about hashtag Bring Cookie Home. My dear friend Brian K. Morris, who still may be watching this, I'm not sure, is trying to earn enough being an author and a publisher and just a powerhouse of good in the universe so that his wife can retire from the restaurant and stop being in physical pain. She's been helping him, and they for decades. It's beautiful. So there's this Bring Cookie Home. I want to also bring you home, John. You've been working insane hours. It's a lot like Steve. You both work incredibly hard for really high money, but you're chewing yourselves up, and you guys are approaching ages at different points where it's time to step back. I would love to get where you can step, because you're not going to retire, John. I know you. You'd go insane if you were, just sitting around bored. So if you can get Swakhammer Metals and you can, start doing stuff, I want to help get you people and get you making products for, say, the HEMA community, for the SCA communities, for the LARP communities. And, through that to help build you up, because that's what I do. I'm a footstool. I am a karmic footstool. That's all I've ever been at the end of the day. All I want out of life 99% of the time is to interlace my fingers like this so people can step and I can boost them up just a little bit. I may not go far, but if I can boost you up just a little bit, I've changed the world, in my opinion. It's one of the highest honors and duties I have. But the problem is, there are people, you go to do this, and instead of stepping on your hand where you can lift them, they step on your face, so you fall backwards, and everybody lands in the mud for a while. But I think good things can happen. Now we're getting to within about 5 minutes of the end of the show, and I do want to cut it off because my wife is expecting me at around 10 o'clock to basically we have family night kind of thing done for us late night owls. So I want to thank some folks, and I want to especially shout out again to Steve Clausen for becoming my first sword tier patron. It's incredibly generous. I really appreciate it. Huge shout out to John. We know why. And because Swakhammer Metal's been good. The rest of my amazing patrons, who I was so delirious with the good news today, I didn't list off properly. So now that I'm a little more sedate, that's Steve Augosto. This man has been with me from day one. Just quietly in the back of my camp. I respect him and I appreciate he's somebody I've known longer than nearly anyone in my life. And good guy. Cindy Kep, who, though I've known only a little while, has been like, I've never had somebody like Cindy Kep pop up in my life and just help, except maybe Brian K. Morris, who's another one of my supporters, and the delightful Stef Mari, who, she's one of my students, she's a friend, she's a colleague, and she's hell on wheels with a brace of battle axes. Just great people. Guys, buy the Simple Sword. I will soon have a author copy of The Fighting Axe. Right now, you can get the ebook for The Fighting Axe for $2.99. It doesn't get better than that, except if you have Kindle Direct, and then it's like free. The print is coming. It will be very inexpensive because I've kept it black and white so I can pass the savings to you. Because that's what I'm about. I want my stuff to be inexpensive so I can get it in your hands. And I can do that because my Patreon members help support me, so I don't have to shaft, somebody down the line. And that's wonderful. It gives us this network. I'm proud to be a member of the Risingtide Broadcasting Network, and I'm getting an error code on my phone. So please get on Facebook and look up the Rising Tide Broadcast Network on Facebook. Or look up Brian K. Morris. That man is a gateway to glory. Also, www.CKOEPP.com, because Cindy Kep is riding on the edge. Now, and Michaela Jade was in here. I don't know if she still is. Wonderful author. Look her up, too. All the people who message on my chats, and you should have the chats on during this show, you all help build something awesome. So I want you guys to keep doing that, and I want people to come to you guys. I can't remember what's going on this weekend, but I do know every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Brian K. Morris has Nevermind the Furthermore, where I'm with him at 10 a.m. That's Eastern time. And that usually goes for about 2 hours. And we talk, well, all sorts of things, really, because he's fed by his comments and a lot of authors talking about their works and what's going on. It's just a good time. And Clever Title Pending, where he interviews really neat people. He even interviewed this fuzzy fluff ball who talks swords way too much a while back. I also want to put a shout out to Christian Basil of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, who also invited me on their show at one point. Great fun, guys. If you haven't, please at least buy the download of my book. Right now, I'm losing a bit of business to some Russian bootleggers who got a hold of it, and that's okay. I expected that, but I would like some support. So if you can, please kick into that. And is that Saturday for BKM? I don't think Brian has. Oh, he might have this new comic show, but I know it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. and then Tuesdays at 8 p.m. for a clever title pending, where he interviews people. Please, John, just follow Brian K. Morris and follow the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, because then you guys will know when they're all broadcasting. I will keep doing the show. I am planning extra programs as my schedule allows that may not even be live, or they will be live where I'm working on things. I'll talk to my patrons about how they want the format. If you want to input on my on what I do, patreon.com/the Historical Fencing Guild. You'll see the boot just like you see on my channel. And guys, look, my channel is awesome because my viewers are awesome. Okay, you guys give me. Well, just you could make Tuesday. That's a good thing to do. Make Tuesday, and we'll see what other shows are on. You could also catch them just because they're live. Catch the reruns; they're really fun. If you get a chance, look through last Tuesday's Clever Title Pending. Or there was one where Brian was, because it was his 65th birthday, he was his host. He was the guest on his own show, and we had a lot of fun with him, asking him questions and just harassing people. So please look into that. Look again, buy my books, and I have some other nifty stuff coming. So, guys, thank you for helping me get the Fighting Sword today. I'm sorry, the Fighting Axe to debut at #1 on Amazon. If you haven't looked into it, look into that. Okay, John just threw heraldry at me, but oh, okay, gotcha. Wow. Just thank you guys. Be good to each other. Be kind to yourself. Start drilling. Spring is upon us. As Brian would say, never apologize for being awesome. And always support your local sword master.